Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll get us started.
Okay.
So our book, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. It was a long one, but we got through it.
Barely.
It's pretty interesting. I had never been like much into the science fiction, like fantasy novels. I don't know. It's never been like a big thing for me. But I mean, even though this was a pretty long book, it was still a decently easy read, and it's pretty interesting. So, like a couple of the questions that I had thought about. The first one was, why do you think no one tried to stop the Day of Sacrifice?
Probably because, like Gerlin said in the first few chapters, they thought it was true because of the people in the city. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Protectorate or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of these names.
It's like they owned the cities and the little towns, and they didn't want to speak up because maybe their child would be taken instead of the one that was supposed to be taken. So
yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with like fear and how that plays a big part in controlling people's decisions. Like if you are told your whole life that this is the way things are done, and if not, bad things are going to happen, you're not going to question it. Like no one wants to be the person to question it and then have the wrath of the witch on them,
Yeah.
Yeah. That leads into that's a really good point. Like that sort of leads into my second question. And like I found a specific example, like how does chapter 24 show oppression, and can we connect that with something today? And like one of the things it talks about was how like the people, like the elders, had focused on like the lies, and how lies oppress, but knowledge is power. And so like based off what you said, like how does that oppression sort of affect those people?
Well, it keeps them blind, oppression almost in a sense gives them this false security through ignorance. Like if you don't know what the truth is, you're not gonna seek the real source to it a lot of times. So I think the oppression definitely leads to ignorance, which leads to blindness and blind following of what they've always been told. So I don't know.
Yeah, going off of that, you don't want, if you've been told that your whole life and you don't want to be the one to bring up that it might not be true, even like if you don't believe it.
No one wants to be the first person to fight the power.
Yeah. And like a lot of times that gets put down. Like one thing, like a modern, like a connection to the real world would be like North Korea. I don't know if you saw recently in the news of that defector, how he like ran across the border.
Yeah.
Got shot 5 times, and then like now they talk about like all the health issues he had, some of the diseases. I mean, like nearly a foot-long parasite they took out of him. And so like little stuff like that, he was trying his hardest to flee oppression. And I mean, it takes one person to catch the attention of the world. I mean, that's all it takes is like one person doing one thing to ignite something great. And I think that's like a really big thing that happened here in this book too, between them and like that and something, I don't know.
Yeah, same with like where North Korea and South Korea are still divided. You could be in South Korea and not even know you've crossed over in North Korea. And it's the same fear that's in this book. They don't want to do anything, but at the same time, if they say anything out of the ordinary, they're going to be punished.
Yeah, so. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, no, definitely a good point. So there's some pretty heavy topics in this book, and I definitely for us wouldn't call it a difficult read, but like for my questions, like what do you think of it as a children's book? Like, do you see it as being a good well, I guess both my questions kind of piggyback off each other, and it's like, what do you think of it as a children's book? And like, would you see it as appropriate to try and incorporate into elementary ed? Because to me, it seemed to be a really difficult read to try and incorporate in our classrooms.
Well, I want to teach kindergarten through second.
Me too.
They're not really doing chapter books at that time, but at the same time, some kids might be ahead of everybody else. They might want to try a chapter book, and mostly little boys like, I guess, stories like this because it involves dragons and witches. But at the same time, it could be difficult for them because there's words in there that I can't even pronounce. I'm 21 years old.
Yeah, I think like for me, for teaching any grades, like I'm fine with any grades, but I probably like a little bit of the older ones better, like 3 to 5, but like so I can do any of them. For me, like I don't think I would involve this book with any curriculum. Like I wouldn't like make the entire class read it. If I did any group thing, it would be like with the academically gifted group, like AIG or AG, whatever it was called, like when you guys were in school. For us, it was AIG.
AIG.
But yeah, I would do that. Like I would put it in a group like for them and let them do it. Or like if a kid wants to check it out in the library and read it for fun, like for reading counts, or for like just to read, and that's fine. But
just for points.
I think for elementary school, I mean, these kids are, a little bit more worldly and are in touch with the world a lot more than we were at their age because of like the whole digital revolution or the whole internet, social media revolution. But even like now, I still it would be hard to use this to teach with, but I'm all for them like reading this on their own or with like small groups. But I wouldn't get a whole classroom involved. And like if I did like do any of this, I would put it like with the AIG 3 to 5, grades 3 to 5. But if I did like a classroom thing, it would be like a 5th grade thing. But that's sort of what I think about it. But
yeah, most definitely. I definitely get where you're coming from. I would not, as a teacher, use this in any curriculum-based things because it is such I wouldn't say difficult read, but it is more advanced. So I agree with both your thoughts on using it for AIG, more advanced students.
Deeper concepts with this book.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are both of mine. We kind of covered both of them, so it was kind of a feedback.
My first question is, what do you think about the relationship between Zan and Luna? That was a child. Yeah, that was her name.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
I think it's a unique one.
Oh, you go ahead. Fire away.
No, you go first.
Okay. So, I don't know. For me, it's sort of like I'm trying to think. There was an example I just thought of. Okay, it's to me, it's like a typical adoption story, like how adopted parents and adopted kids would feel they find they find this little child abandoned and they take it in as their own because they see potential, and then they connect over magic, and then Luna becomes so much more powerful and can destroy her, and later in the book her magic's unleashed. But I don't know, they're just I think the relationship's good, and I think it's a good connection. But I mean, I don't know. To me, it just seems like a typical how a parent would feel towards a child, even though there's no blood relation between them. It's just the perfect little adoption story. I think find a child abandoned, raise it as your own, stuff like that.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's a really good kind of taking it a step further. I think it's a really good example for kids to look at different family models. If you really want to take it that deep, because it is an adoption story. Zan takes in a child that was not hers. And I think that it's a very unique relationship between them because, Zan went from giving babies to other families to taking in one herself. And I think that through the magic and through the special circumstances, it creates a very special bond that I haven't really seen in a lot of books, like children's books that we've read this semester. But I mean, I like to look at it from the different family model perspective, because a lot of kids, especially if younger ones were to be reading it, they've probably heard about adoption in passing, but none of them have been able to really see a model. And this is a way of like inadvertently showing kids that families can be different.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
I think it's a really, really cool relationship to introduce younger kids to.
Because I'm sure some kids, like in our classrooms, will be adopted. I mean, I had one friend, he was adopted from Russia.
My little sister's adopted. So it's cool, like, for me to look at a book that has an example, and because it makes me think of my little sister, because, like, we adopted her when she was 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to give students something they can relate to, as well as something that kind of informs others that aren't in the same situation.
Because, like, to me, like, I've noticed a lot more, like, in the schools with younger kids and stuff, like a lot of foster parents, a lot of fostering.
Yes.
More so than straight up adoption. I see a lot of fostering, and I think, we can connect that with the same aspects as this. So I think it's sort of beneficial. Because to me, it seems like, I don't know if it's because I'm older and notice it more or because it's happening more, but it seems there's more and more fostering and foster parents than where I was young.
Yeah. Sorry. You go.
No, you're fine, babe. You're fine.
Okay. I would agree. I'm gonna have to agree with both of y'all. I am somewhat adopted. My uncle took me in when I was 15, and he didn't actually adopt me, but he did go to the court system. They gave him legal custody over me, and we don't have the same last name because he didn't want to take my last name and turn it to his.
Yeah.
But he did adopt me. He is basically my adopted father. Because it's been 7 years now, and from the start of the book, when Exam found Luna in the woods, she basically saved her, because there was no telling what would have happened to Luna if Zan didn't show up. And the people in the purgatory or whatever thought and believed that a monster came and basically murdered the babies.
Yeah.
But the whole time, Zan was the one taking the babies to new homes to people that didn't have the ability, I guess, to have children or just wanted, like, to adopt babies that didn't have families.
I think that's a really good point. I thought that was pretty cool, like how they one side of the forest there was like this evil city, it was all sorrowful, and then the other side was willing adopted families, like such a night day difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one side was fear and the other side was happiness.
Yeah, it's almost like a fear and acceptance kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you look at it, like, on one side was people scared of the unknown, and on the other were people willing to take in the unknown. So
yeah, and my other question was, how did your feelings change throughout the book? Like, for me, I was happy when Zan rescued Luna, but at the same time, when she didn't tell Luna about her magic and held magic in, it kind of is just like, you're not giving Luna the potential to be who she really is. You're hiding her life from her. And then there's one part in the book where Zan, like, puts magic on to where she forgets she has magic, and she's not allowed to use it because she doesn't realize she has it. And she's even forgot what the word magic means.
Yeah.
Luna loved Zan like a grandmother because that's what she grew up calling her. And then at the end of the book, when Zan died, I was just, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. It definitely goes kind of from, like, happiness to, like, frustration, a little bit of anger. Then you kind of see the whole situation, like, oh, okay, I get it now. And then it kind of just is a full circle kind of book, emotion wise. Like you start at this one point of like being happy for Zan and Luna, and you're like, wow, this is so cool. And then it kind of just goes downhill a little bit and you get a little frustrated. Then you hit sadness, and then it kind of comes full circle again because you're like, all right, I see the whole picture now.
Yeah.
I like how like the entire book sort of culminates to like the final few chapters. Like when they're all on journey, like in the woods, and like they're all searching for their own thing. One person's chasing another, and I think like the sister something. I can't, like, starts with the I. I can't remember. Yeah, they were chasing the A guy. I can't remember. Like
I can never remember the names.
Yeah. So like she was chasing him. He was chasing.
They were all like really hard except for Luna.
Yeah, the witch. Zan was chasing Luna, and then her buddies like the Bogman and the dragon. Like we're all just looking for each other. And all of a sudden, like they all meet up in the woods and just. I don't know, I think it's really cool. Like the whole story just keeps building off the emotions, building off the actions, and then just blows up at the end.
Definitely a good point.
Actually, I didn't, when Zan first brought Luna home, Gluck, the gigantic dragon, didn't want Luna there because he didn't realize the potential she had, but at the same time, he was falling more and more in love with her every day they were together. And then you have the little dragon, which I pictured him as like a little itty bitty baby bird, because he said he wasn't as big as Gluck, and he thought they were giants compared to him, but in reality, to me, he was the little itty bitty dragon.
Yeah.
I picture him as like Eddie Murphy from Shrek, and he was the dragon, but like tiny. Talking about how energetic he was, I can just see it right now, like donkey.
Donkey.
I can literally see him flying around, trying like just being his energetic self.
Yeah.
Because he always wanted to be around Luna, and then it upset him when at first he couldn't get around Luna because of all her magic, and and Zan told him that she didn't want him and Luna to hurt each other, and he fought with her about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. All in all, I think this was a really good book.
Mm-hmm. And
while I wouldn't necessarily use it curriculum-wise, I definitely plan on keeping it in my classroom.
Yeah.
And keeping it available to students.
Yeah.
It's got some good points.
You don't want to take away from children, and I think putting this book in my classroom will help children learn words, because younger kids are always on the move, and they want to know every word, every definition. Oh, I did when I was a child. I wanted to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's a good book, like, for kids and everything. I don't know, like, there's this one like paragraph on page 360. I'll read it. Like, to me, it's sort of like it's the whole message of the book culminated, and it says, this is Zan talking to one of the sisters. I believe it's the sister. Yeah. She said, "No, dear lady, you didn't. Just as you don't know what happened to the babies. Every year I came to the edge of that sad, sad place. Every year I carried a child with me across the forest to the free cities. And there I placed a child with a loving family. And to my shame, its original family sorrowed needlessly. And you fed on that sorrow. You will not feed on Antane sorrow or Ethne's. Their baby will live with his parents. He will grow and thrive. Indeed, while you have been prowling around the forest, your little sorrow fog has already lifted. The protectorate now knows what it is to be free." I just sort of think that's really awesome. Like, she starts out like her little speech talking about how gloomy and like how bad it was at the beginning, and now when that sorrow's been gone and hope is back, everything's free. And like, even for young kids, you could make that message, apply and be attractive to them too. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the entire book is that paragraph. I marked it, so it means something.
Yeah.
that was one, I love that whole chapter. Like Xan, I can compare Xan to a social worker because she took the babies and placed them in a loving home where they were adopted. And that's basically what a social worker does.
Yeah.
And if I was to become a social worker, I would be the one to take the kids home.
But yeah, I definitely see that.
That's about all I got for this book.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Oh, guys.
I guess it's our grand finale for the semester.
Yes.
Ta-da!
I actually like doing these.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is because you get to voice your opinion, and at the same time, you get to hear what the other people in the class thought about. The people who read the same book and how they thought about what they got from the book. Yeah.
I will say, like, one negative aspect to this is scheduling.
Yes.
Because especially when you have we're just a group of a few people, so that's not too bad. But you have like 5 or 6 people that you all got to coordinate. That's the only downside. I would say, like, for future reference or whatever, like for these like literature circle groups, I would say like no more than like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
We had 5 in our first literature circle, and it wasn't that hard because everybody was emailing back to back to back.
Yeah.
But maybe already have a group message set up for every book read. It might be a little bit better.
Yeah. GroupMe, the app, it has helped me out so much this semester.
Yeah. I've used that a couple times.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even hear about it until I got here at app, GroupMe, but it's awesome.
I had never heard about it until I was here either.
Yeah.
Well, good job, guys.
Look at the dragon. He's so cute. Sorry, I like the little dragon.
Oh, you're good.
No, I love him.
So are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stop the recording, I think, now.
I'm going to stop it now.